Hi everyone, I'm Liz from Experiential Mindfulness Melbourne. I help people manage and reduce stress so they can have more joy, peace and calm in their lives. So today I'm going to talk to you about dealing with negative thoughts and negative self-judgments and how mindfulness can help you deal with thoughts differently. So we can all have negative self-judgments at times. We can be quite good at giving ourselves a hard time because we feel guilty about something, or we just have set standards really high for ourselves, and then we give ourselves a hard times if we feel that we haven't reached those. We can be very judgmental with ourselves, and of course depending on the kind of upbringing we've had, because I had quite a lot of negativity when I grew up. And as a result, when even as an adult, I had certainly a very negative way of looking at the world, and of course talking to myself as well. It was all about telling myself how that I wasn't good enough, that I could never make the right decisions, that things never went for me the way I wanted them to be, the world wasn't fair, and so on. So it was a lot of negativity, and because I had depression, and when you have depression, you look at the world in very negative ways. You can really, spiral downwards more and more until everything feels completely, hopeless. So to come back from that, I did quite a lot of different things, but certainly mindfulness has been huge in shifting that negativity. And because when we look at everything negatively, we obviously going to feel very bad about ourselves and about everything, and it affects the relationships that we had as well. And even after having done quite a bit of work on myself, it's still through mindfulness. I didn't actually realize, I wasn't necessarily aware to what extent I had such negative way of looking at things, negative thoughts and negative self-judgments. And again, so mindfulness really brought that awareness as well, because it's often we're not always aware, because this is how we always talk to ourselves. This is what the way we looked at the world, that we learned as kids, and then we continued looking at things that way. And we're not always aware that we look at things in a negative way, or that we talk ourselves in a way that makes us feel depressed or anxious or stressed. So, and because of course when we focus on the negative, then we only see the negative. If you just so there was a story about a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in quite a few years. And because when you look at things negatively, you're attracted to people who also look at things negatively. But I hadn't seen her in quite a few years. So by that stage, I already shifted, how I looked at things quite a bit. So we went on holiday together in Italy, Cinque Terre, which is this beautiful little picturesque villages on the coast. And I booked a hotel room overlooking the sea and the beach. So we arrived, the shutters were closed, so I went to open the shutter, and the view was amazing. It was just beach, the sea, the cliffs in the distance. So I got really excited and, come and have a look, it's amazing, it's really beautiful. And so she came, and just right away we were looking, I thought we were looking at the same thing. She just tilted her head slightly to the left and went, "Oh, there's a railway track just there. We're not going to be able to sleep." So to me, this story is just, that's what happens. If you're always looking for negative things, you're always going to find them. We were both looking, well, I thought we were both looking at the same view. And she saw something totally different. She actually was able to find, and as I said, she actually had to tilt her head to find that, but she was able to do it. So just to say that's what happens when we tend to focus on the negative, we see negative. If we focus on positive, we'll see positive. To talk about glass half full, glass half empty, and certainly for me as well, it used to be really half empty for a really long time. So what changed? Well, it's not just a matter of replacing negative thoughts with positive thoughts. Positive thinking is not always necessarily that helpful, because it's not, we will have sometimes still some negative thoughts. It's not realistic to think that we're always going to be to be positive about everything, because there's some days that you're going to feel worse than others, and that happens, and that's okay. And actually it's about then accepting, and that's where acceptance comes in, which is also very important concept in mindfulness, which, acceptance of the maybe unpleasant, what we experience are unpleasant negative thoughts and emotions, even if we'd rather that we didn't have them. Well, if they're happening anyway, so it's about accepting. And that in itself makes a big difference. And then it's about that awareness, becoming aware of our thought patterns, because it's only when we become aware of our thought patterns, how they affect us, that we can then change them, because then we have the choice to either continue or change. But if we're not aware, we don't have that choice. So some of the things that you can do, first is about observing our thoughts. In order to gain that awareness is becoming the observer of our thoughts, which means creating distance between the thoughts that we have and ourselves. And really realizing, and that's what's helped me a lot, realizing that, we have a lot of these thoughts and beliefs that are limiting, that are not very helpful to us. That's because we just learned them, from childhood. But right now they actually really prevent us from doing, they hinder us in our lives rather than helping us. So in that case, we can actually choose to do things differently. So you can do to deal with thoughts in a different way and not get hooked by those negative thoughts or self-judgments, is to name the thoughts. So for example, if you've got this thought comes in, I'm not good enough, or I feel stupid right now, it's about just saying, I notice that I am having the thought that I'm not good enough, the thought that I feel stupid, whatever it is. And just by doing that, you're creating that distance. So it gives you that awareness of what's going on, the kind of thoughts that you're having, and giving you that distance so you don't feel hooked by it. So you don't fall into that story, the script. We all have a script, a story that we keep telling ourselves. So it's breaking away from that. And there's other techniques, of course, that we use as well to distance yourself from the thoughts, such as when we connect with the breath, when we meditate, and whenever thoughts come in, just bring yourself back to the breath and let them go. You can also, one way is to imagine that you're putting each thought that comes in, you put them on a leaf going down a gentle flowing stream. That's also a technique that I use as well during the day, which is also really effective. Or, some people find it useful to imagine that they're in front of a screen, like at the cinema, and when thoughts come in, just putting them on the screen. Especially, do that if you're falling asleep and you start have a lot of, thoughts come in, or actually you're trying to fall asleep, but you're not. You're having a lot of thoughts come in and your mind, start racing, using these techniques. But, during the day as well, each time that, there is a negative self-judgment, negative way of thinking, starting to, noticing, becoming aware, and, which will, it will increase that awareness by doing that, creating that distance, using one of these techniques to create that distance between you and your thoughts. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that I've got a 6-week mindfulness course coming up soon, starting on the 10th of August in St. Kilda East. So it's going to give you really good grounding in different mindfulness techniques and principles, to be able to deal with your thoughts and emotions differently, so you can have a lot less stress, more calm and joy. So if it's convenient, practical for you, you live in Melbourne and you can do the course, then check my website, Experiential Mindfulness Melbourne, or my Facebook page, also Experiential Mindfulness Melbourne. So have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Bye.